And the House also approved a bill today that requires proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote in all federal elections. Republicans argue the legislation is needed to ensure only citizens cast ballots, but non-citizen voting is already illegal, and Democrats and voting rights groups warn that this measure may lead to disenfranchising voters. And Jessica Huseman is the editorial director of Votebeat, a nonprofit that covers election administration and voting access. She joins us live to discuss. Jessica, good to have you back. Thanks for being with us here. This could be a very big problem for women who got married and changed their name. That's some 69 million Americans. Also a problem for minority groups. Can you tell me about the fears of the effects that this could have?
Sure, of course. I think there are a lot of situations in which your birth certificate, for example, does not match what your name currently is. And that could be women who have changed their name because they got married. It could be people who have changed their name for other reasons. But those people are going to have to provide even more documentation upon registering to vote than someone who could provide a birth certificate that reflects their current name. And so women are obviously probably the most impacted by this. But minorities who have sort of inconsistent last name standards from government document to government document, which is very common in some cultural groups, will also have a really difficult time conforming with this, depending on how their states choose to enforce it.
And Jessica, as I said at the outset, it's already illegal for non-citizens to vote here. This seems like a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think that it's really important to know that it is already illegal. And also there is almost no record of this happening at any significant rate. There have been several states that have done really in-depth studies about how many non-citizens are on the voter roll. For example, Georgia did one and found that there were only 24. There are millions of people on that voter roll. That is an extraordinarily small percentage. So we will all have to reprove our citizenship. We will all have to bring more documentation for the prevention of this really, really unlikely crime.
I remember, Jessica, you made that point when we talked sort of around this last month, talking about that executive order from the president targeting these ideas about citizenship here. Why is the legislation needed? Do you see this as sort of a workaround to any expected challenge to the executive order?
You know what, I kind of see the executive order as a workaround to this bill. While it did pass the House today, I'm very much not expecting it to pass the Senate, where it will need much more support from Democrats than it had in the House in order to survive a filibuster. And so this bill is probably not going to become law. And so I think the real way that I'm looking at it is that the executive order was a workaround for this bill.
That's interesting. Let me ask you, would election volunteers, county clerks, be ready for a challenge like this if this were to pass?
Almost certainly not, no. First and foremost, because it would decimate third-party voter registration campaigns. There are several states that rely very heavily on nonprofit groups and political parties to register individuals to vote. That is obviously not possible in a situation in which you're required to provide documentary proof of citizenship. So that's going to put a much bigger burden onto these offices. And then also, I think that people assume that government offices have the ability to discern which is a real document and which isn't. For example, there's no standard form that birth certificates take in the United States. So your county clerk's ability to discern whether your birth certificate is real or forged is pretty much non-existent. So there are a ton of difficulties here, and those are only two.
A few seconds left here. I found this interesting. You wrote about Chris Krebs, the president apparently going after his first-term cybersecurity chief. Tell us what that's about.
Yes. So Chris Krebs was one of the only people in the Trump administration to put their name on a statement after 2020 saying that the election wasn't stolen, right? CISA followed with a formal statement. Several groups outside of the government did as well, but he was really the face of that within the Trump administration. He was fired for that by tweet shortly after making that scene in November of 2020. And now this follows. I think that it's worth noting that there has been no criminal prosecution of Mr. Krebs over the last 4 years. There has been no real suggestion of any criminality. And so this is really seen as retaliation.
Right, we'll see what happens with that. Putting the focus on election integrity, Jessica Huseman with Votebeat. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Okay.